today's show, I'm joined by Adi Aman, who is talking with us about compromising relationships and his parents' backstory and how it relates to online dating today. And lastly, about knowing yourself before getting into a relationship versus codependency. My name's Danielle Reaume, and let's get started. Hi Adi, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good, thank you so much for joining me and sharing. And I just wanted to start off by saying thank you so much for opening up.
No, the pleasure's all mine.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Awesome. You know, from the moment I met you, like, it's always been so easy to chat with you, and you have such an amazing depth to yourself, and I just love how vulnerable you are, and yeah.
Thank you. No, and you know what? It's just something that I've grown myself to be. I would say with time, you just realize that it's a lot more easier, and I would just say it's a lot more easier to be who you are, vulnerable or not, than to put up a sort of guard, you know. And it's just something that it's still a work in progress, you know. There's certain parts where I'm not very comfortable being open with, but to be honest, I would say for most part, I'm pretty open.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I always say too, well, I don't say, like, somebody started saying this and then I've picked it up, is that whole, like, if we're not learning, we're dead, or if we're not growing, we're dead. It's like there's always opportunities for growth and development, and
completely agree.
That's what life's about, right?
Yeah, it's always about, I feel like, you know, if continual growth is part of it, then sure.
Absolutely.
You know, if I learn something, right, if I see somebody who I feel could benefit from it,
huge.
Hopefully, sometimes I run the risk of it being unsolicited advice, but to be honest, it comes from a good place. So
absolutely,
you know, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And I think helping others generally makes the world a better place, despite all the stuff that's happening, right?
Yeah,
News and all that. But so I just personally think it's good to help.
Absolutely. So today I really want to dive into relationships. I'm so fascinated by them, and I feel like there's so many amazing connections that we can make to them. Yeah. So I like to start off, if you're open to sharing, hearing a little bit about what did your parents' relationship look like growing up? Like, what was that? You know, because typically our parents' relationship is the first model of romantic relationships that we experience.
The relationship, even now, is really good. So my parents, typically, it's one of those, I would say, stereotypes, but it was an arranged marriage.
Okay.
So
fascinating.
Yeah, no, my dad. But okay, it was like, I wouldn't say arranged. It was more like yesteryear's OkCupid / POF. Kind of, no, seriously, like it's okay. So what happened was my dad kind of he was, I think, 32 or 31. His parents, my grandparents, were like, okay, time for you to get married. Everyone's just getting married, right? So, and I think my dad at that point was focused on his career, but he was like, you know, why not, right?
Yeah.
So his dad put an ad in the newspaper. I think what happened was, and he also, did he put a picture of my dad? No, I don't think he put a picture. And then my mom, her brothers or something, because unfortunately my grandfather on my mom's side, he passed away when she was quite young. So I think her older brother contacted my grandfather.
Okay.
And he was like, oh, you know what, Vatsala. So my mom's name is Vatsala. My dad's name is Anil. So he was like, she's interested, you know, and I think they sent pictures of her. So when my dad sees a picture, he's like, I don't know.
Again, just like online dating world, right? Swipe left, swipe right.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And then when my mom sees this picture, she's like, oh, wow, ooh la la, you know, kind of. She
ooh la la.
Yeah, she was, I guess she was intrigued. And then my dad was like, you know what, I'll give a shot, right? And then they ended up meeting, and my dad actually liked her a lot in person.
Aww.
But everything happened so quick. I think they met in April. Because you see, back then, the whole intent was not really to date. It was you find a spouse.
It's just like one and done. It's not like go through the dating process, get to know them, see if you like them. It's like, no, like, once that person responds to the ad, you're in, right?
Exactly, right? My dad ended up meeting my mom, and they hit it off. So they met, I think, in April, it was probably April of 1987, right? And then, no, 86 actually. And then in May 11th, they got married, and they've been together ever since.
April they met, May they got married. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I think it's crazy how, you know, people back then could commit so easily.
I'd imagine there could have been fear of the unknown and things that people were thinking, but they still went through with it and went forward and kind of took that leap, which we all have to do in dating. But I find these days it's so much easier to pause it and like Okay, so they got married in May, and what kind of values did you see in their relationship that spoke to you that you wanted to carry with you?
Trust, kindness, compassion, and most importantly, compromise.
Huge.
Yeah, compromise.
Tell me a bit about
huge.
that one. Yeah. If you had a certain story or just a way that you saw that compromise and how it played out and why you feel it's so.
I'll preface it by saying my dad and my mom are not exactly the same. In terms of personality, right? Like my dad's he's a little bit more of a go-getter, right? He's a little more talkative, like he's more outgoing. My mom's more of a homebody, right?
That's that whole opposites attract almost, right?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. And my mom's very she's, I would say, very traditional in her own sense.
Okay.
So how did they compromise, right? My dad is also a risk taker when it comes to certain things. My mom's not. So there have been many cases where my dad wanted to pursue some things, but then they had to maybe put it on pause because at the moment it was really not what my mom was feeling. And at certain other points, my dad pursued it, but then my mom was like, okay,
Right.
So you see what I mean? Like, basically, they've had to make ends meet. And I find that when they argue and stuff, sometimes my dad is, he tries to keep the peace. Sometimes my mom tries, or in the past,
Right.
So there's compromise there.
In the dating world, are you in a relationship? What does that look like right now for you?
No, I'm not actually. I'm not actively looking, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
With regards to that sharing emotions and things like that, who do you feel you model after in that? Do you feel like you're more like your dad with holding, or do you feel like you're like your mom?
I feel like I'm more expressive, to be honest. I feel like I really think in many ways I'm like my mom. Like I take after a lot of her qualities. I would say I'm probably 60% in terms of how caring and nurturing she is, but then I also have a percentage of my dad.
Oh, of course. And I think we all are a mixture of our mom and our dad and come out in different ways.
Yeah, but I also feel I have my own, there's a small percentage, or I would say maybe not even a small, it's a real big percentage that's also me as a person, something that I've learned that was not influenced by either of them, right? So,
as far as expressing yourself and all those pieces go, how do you find that's important in the relationships you've had romantically and then for your future?
I do think you have to be honest. Communication is important.
What I find so neat is I've met all sorts of men in my time,
right?
And I think it's a really amazing and such a great quality when men are able to share their emotions and their feelings. And there's this whole piece, I believe, that in society for a while it was like the men have to be the masculine, hold everything in, pride, tough exterior. And what I really firmly in my beliefs believe is that it takes such a strong man to be able to show emotions and to talk about them and share with them. And that's one of the things that I really admire about you, and I see that's such a great quality. And that's, so I think, what makes successful relationships, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think, to be honest, I used to also think that, and I've been told sometimes, I'll be very candid, people have in the past told me, oh, you're too emotional for a guy, right? But I don't really,
that noise.
No, I don't really care, or I learn not to care, because to be honest, I am who I am, and my experiences, everyone has their own journey, right? Just as you have your own journey, I have my own journey. Everyone has their own journey to get to a certain point, right? So who am I to say? I mean, of course, there's certain things I personally I'm not in favor of, right? Not exactly when it comes to relationships, but certain views, but I can't control that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I can just live and let live.
Yeah.
I've dated, but I've only had, I would say, the one serious proper relationship, which also didn't last that long, but I felt like we were honest and communicative. I feel like it generally happens, me in terms of me expressing myself. I feel like it's helped me be a better friend and a better communicator, right? In terms of romance, the one that I had, which I felt really meant a lot to me, was it was good. If I was upset about something, I would share it, and vice versa. She would share it back. I do feel, though, at times compromise is important, though. I mean, when I say compromise, it's not, sometimes you can't always pick at the small things. I feel like that's one of the issues that I've seen. People are so picky and nitpicky about stupid things, in my opinion. Like, oh, or they don't think about the big picture. They focus on the small things, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I have to win this battle. You shouldn't have a huge ego when it comes to relationships. Actually, my cousin's wife, her mom, and he gave me a really good tidbit of information. So he's been married to his wife for about 9 years, I would say. Yeah, 9. No, or it'll be 10 years this year. So they have a little 5-year-old boy.
Yeah.
And his mother-in-law told him, whenever you have a fight, sometimes you just gotta bite the bullet and just go say, you know what, let's just talk about it, let's keep the peace, even though sometimes, and it's hard because sometimes you don't want to feel like you lost, right? Like everyone gets that way.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's their fault, why should I do that? But then to be honest, sometimes you have to do it.
You can either be right or you can be happy, healthy, wealthy.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah, exactly.
I think that kind of encompasses all of that into one, to say, how important is it for somebody to be right? Because we could spend our whole lives trying to like have that ego and prove our point and like
correct.
always be right, or we can just be happy and live our lives and have so much freedom there, I would almost say.
Yeah.
And then, well, a couple things I find. Sometimes we think it's that toilet paper roll that's on the wrong way, or like they never put away their laundry. I always am fascinated to go, what's below that? I find that's often like that presenting thing. And sometimes those little things add up. And I've experienced it myself in a relationship where it's like, maybe the dishes don't get done and there's a couple that sit in the sink and it's annoying and this and that. But then once I like kind of reflected a bit further, I thought, oh, you know what? There was something with my boyfriend that I hadn't brought up like a week ago. And now stupid things like the dishes or something are like piling up. And I'm going, well, like unconsciously, it's like, no, that's actually not what it is. It's like I've been shoving down my feelings and things I wanted to bring up on maybe a bigger level. And now the little things are all starting to bug me. And there can be a lot of release, right? And there's that whole piece of like holding stuff in and I get like that whole communication piece, there's a lot of vulnerability there. So I've even experienced times where I've been afraid to share, but then as soon as I do and I finally express myself, it's like that relief again and like a weight is lifted off.
Yeah. Like I've also been in the same situation, right? Mostly not so much with relationships, right? But it's mostly with friends where I was not happy with the way this, couple of people treated me, right? And then I wouldn't say anything. And then down the road I would just snap, right? And I feel like
I can relate.
Yeah, and it would be about something small.
Yeah.
It stems all the way from, XYZ months ago. If there's something that you don't like, right? You should let them know. You should kind of speak up.
The sooner the better.
Yeah.
Because it's that pile up that happens, and sometimes I think too we're not feeling it maybe consciously, but it's what's going on. I call it like behind the scenes, behind the curtain, in the closet of our emotions and our physicality, right? And then when we're not addressing it, then all of a sudden illness, I believe, starts to show up because it's going, or some bigger traumas or chaos because it's going, pay attention. Like,
to be honest, if you're in a relationship, I think it's expected or it's your duty. You can't expect.
You can't read my mind.
Girl, exactly.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to be open to sharing, and also, if that person is understanding enough, or the person's, I think, right. It also depends how you like the tone and how rude.
Yes.
How
tone is huge.
like the way you're giving your point of view, but if the other person can't understand, right, then
and then sometimes, so if the other person doesn't understand, maybe it's the words that were chosen or how it was expressed, and it's all at the end of the day, we want to be in this space where we have that healthy relationship.
Because sometimes you could say something and you could come from a really warm, gentle place, but the other person may, for whatever reason, take it negatively.
Yeah, so in some of the teachings that I've been through, it talks about the communication model, and there's this whole diagram on it, and it says essentially we have like 2 billion bits of information that comes at us. It's all how I'm interpreting it, and I could interpret it like a totally different way than you mean it. And that's where I think then it's like getting really clear. And I've learned this whole piece of listening. I used to be really reactive, and it's a work in progress.
Yeah, of course.
But I remember certain things would be said to me, and I'd immediately want to put my back up and get defensive. And what I've learned is a couple things is like take a pause, and if I'm realizing that the haircut comment, for instance, is getting me up on guard, now I would say, oh, like how specifically, and just kind of gauge a little bit more.
Yeah, I and you know what? It's good you mentioned that, because see, I wasn't really.
It's another way of thinking of it, right?
Yeah. Like I didn't think about the whole, like I would say the science of the psychology, right? I mean,
Yes.
like the psychology of you when. See, if I would, like me, to be honest, when somebody compliments me, depends on, and it makes sense, depends on how I'm feeling, right? If I'm feeling great
Can you
or very
receive it?
confident, I actually I find it easier to accept it. And if I'm like whatever, I actually get shy,
Yeah.
Or
you might think, what an asshole. They don't really mean it.
Yeah,
Not you, me.
No,
like
no.
in a
I
different
understand,
space.
Yeah.
You mentioned that right now you're not actually looking for a relationship.
Yeah.
Would you be comfortable either sharing if you have some reasons behind that?
Of course, yeah.
And then I'd love to go towards what you would like in a relationship moving forward, what that healthy relationship looks like for you.
So right now I'm not actively looking for a relationship as such. I'm not really worried about it, because I would say, so I just turned 30 in February, right? So from 15 till I would say 20, 29, it was a big priority to me in the sense that I felt that, oh wow, well obviously when you're a kid, you're growing up and you get attracted to whoever.
Yeah.
Guys get attracted to women, and then sometimes same sex, right? It's just what you're comfortable with, what your orientation is, right?
Yeah.
And I just I came from, I wouldn't say a sheltered culture, but just boys and girls were separate, right? I mean, you had a block for guys to study, and you had another block for girls. So when I started, I would say grade 11, I went to India for boarding school, and I got to communicate with girls the same age, right? So it was very awkward. I got over that kind of, but only after I came here. But since then, I felt like, I had to. I felt like having a significant other, to be honest, would fill a void for me. Like I felt like I was feeling a little bit, like I would see everybody and oh, this guy's going out, and oh, this girl's so pretty, I need to find somebody like that, right?
I can relate. It's felt like a mission before. Like once I have that, I'll achieve that. Well, what about just being who we want to be and doing what we want to do? And then if that's the aftermath of it, awesome.
Yeah.
Why spend our lives? Exactly. And I did that tunnel vision. That's all I cared about. Crazy, serial dating, really wanting to find the one.
Yeah.
And not really having a lot of like specifics around it even. Like it could have been, the Joe Blow on the street. Like there wasn't a lot of so anyways, so you went through this?
Yeah, I went through that for many years actually. Sometimes you can't control how you feel. You feel 100%. See, with me, I'll tell you, so I'm more of a traditional kind of, I guess, as they say, Bollywood. I believe, like, I look at my parents' relationship, right?
Yeah.
And, that kind of idolizes me. And even though I know that, I mean, I idolize that, right? It doesn't idolize. I idolize my parents' relationship. I know that you can't, like, in today's day and age, it's kind of tough to expect something like that, because media, technology, you have apps and all these things, right? But I personally, when I meet somebody, if I find something special about them, that's primarily what I want. Like I want to explore something long term, right? I've had cases where I wasn't sure. I'll just go with the flow. Flow. Go with the flow, and just see how things are.
Yeah.
And I've had cases where I just wanted to experiment. But then, to be honest, at the back of my head, I always wanted to be with somebody long term. But I was so behind that. I mean, I went to school, I worked, but I was always at the back of my head, oh, I have a girlfriend, I don't have a proper girlfriend. And then I ended up meeting somebody when I was 23, 24, and I thought I'd get married to her, right? But the problem was we rushed into a relationship really, really fast, and we made promises soon, and then I felt like I was too young.
Yeah.
And it didn't work out, right? And it was really life changing because I think, how when you meet somebody great, you get butterflies, and you're like, oh my gosh, this person's amazing, right? I had the expectation that would last throughout, but then real life kind of sets in, right? Like,
there's that honeymoon period almost, right?
Exactly. And the honeymoon period for me, just like it was really intense but really short. And then when I realized that she was into me, I don't know, I felt like a little bit suffocated, I guess. And I was a bit younger too, but that was very life changing for me, because then I realized, real love is not the butterflies, it's more, you choosing to be with that person, right? And you understanding each other. So since then, I really, like, I dated a little bit here and there, but I don't know, things just didn't work out, and I didn't, I used to feel bad, and to be honest, even recently I was like, oh my gosh, why, like, am I that bad? But then to be honest, I realized, you know what, why am I looking so much externally for validation?
Exactly.
Right? I should be focusing more inward, to fill that void. And
how can I love somebody else if I don't even love myself?
Exactly.
Right? Like, because that is the relationship, and your relationship with yourself can really show in what the outcome of your romantic relationships and other relationships in your life look like.
Agreed.
If it's healthy, I believe it's because you have a healthy relationship with yourself. If it's tumultuous and toxic, I think that also has a lot to say about how you must feel about yourself.
Yeah.
Because you would never put up the kind of treatment that you know you deserve if you really believe deep down that you deserve that, like,
Agreed.
piece.
Agreed.
And then there's that, I love this concept of independent and dependency, kind of like a happy medium between it. And this whole piece of, like, two people, once we are 100% ourselves, then we can attract another person who's 100% and be 200% together.
Exactly.
If that's where we want to go. But if I don't like this idea of 50 and 50, because that would suggest that we're not whole within ourselves.
I feel like a lot of it is due to media, right? Like, you have Jerry Maguire. I mean, that's a good movie, but you have movies like that where
she completes me.
You complete me,
or,
right?
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, yes, it's romantic to hear, but
if you can't be complete on your own, how can you be?
And they only talk about their relationship until the end of the movie. What happens after? I've decided to focus more on my relationship with myself.
Beautiful.
And not really look outward, That's not to say if I meet people I'm not going to feel anything, but I don't regret the amount of time it took for me to figure this out, or I'm still figuring it out, but because everyone has their journey. But I do think that I would rather be 100%, and then another person would, I could add to them, or they could add to me.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm not filling up a void, and neither is she filling up mine.
Exactly. That codependency piece, right?
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. That was amazing.
No, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
The pleasure's all mine, yeah.
I always have so much fun chatting with Adi. He's such a deep soul, and I love his thoughts and insights on relationships and values especially. Today's main points that I took away were all around compromise and what that looks like, and the difference between compromising on the little things and the big things, and what is important to you and what will you compromise on versus what is important for you to hold your own, speak your truth, and really express what it is you need within your relationship, because communication is also so important. This big piece about how can you know how to love someone else if you don't know or if you don't love yourself. Such a huge piece. We weren't taught how to love ourselves growing up and as we learned and grew. And so it's really important that we have the right tools to learn how to love ourselves. And it might sound flaky and fluffy, but it really is such an important piece. So if you want more information on how to learn how to love yourself and how to become the best version of yourself, I'd love for you to check out my website below. Ask to be signed up for the future notifications about these videos if you want to continue following along. And also on this video where we talk a little bit more about getting to know yourself in relationships. If you'd like to subscribe below to receive more video notifications about upcoming topics and people that I'm meeting with, please do so. And if you'd like more information on the services that I offer through my life coaching, please visit the website. Thank you, and we'll see you soon.